Okay, so we're kind of at this weird point when it comes to our coverage over the X-Men where there's going to be a bunch of stories that may not seem to go together for the overall storyline for all the X-Men characters leading into Onslaught. And so you might see some storylines where you may actually care for the characters, and some storylines you may not truly care at all. Like, for example, X Factor issue number 116. Now, with this one-shot story, it's really more focusing on Wildchild. Now, I do know personally there are some fans out there of the character, but not many. But either way, I still want to kind of have this video out there for the character. Now, I did say that this video was going to be about, Wildchild, right? But technically, it's also about another character. You see, for Wildchild, before he had joined X Factor, he was part of a different team, of course, called Alpha Flight. Now, around his time with that team, he had also begun to date another character, and that would be Aurora. And I kind of feel like I'm always saying her name wrong. Now, when it comes to Aurora, she was part of the early days of Alpha Flight, really most of the time with Alpha Flight. But in her early days of her life, unfortunately, she was kind of mistreated by different people around her, where she did kind of gain a disorder. Now, unfortunately, I don't know which comic it is that where she gained her disorder, but her mental state is not as strong as other characters. And so that right there will play a major role in the storyline, because for Wildchild, he left the team behind, but he also left her behind as well. And so that is why, as we get into the opening pages of this book, we're really picking up with Wildchild just enjoying his time being with X Factor. Except while he's out there trying to enjoy his time with being with X Factor, that is when he is attacked by Aurora. And technically, it's out of nowhere. Now, for Wildchild, he's kind of like, wait a second. Why in the world are you here? But you can see that she's expressing her feelings over the idea that he had left her behind. And so currently she's mentally broken at the moment. She's trying to figure out why in the world this man left the team, but also left her behind as well. But now we kind of switch over to Mystique, Forge, and also Val Cooper. Now, technically, it's Val Cooper and Mystique trying to find Forge, which they are able to do. But while they're trying to enter his lab, they are confronted by a hologram of Shard. Now, Shard is the sister to Bishop. The thing is, she died in his original timeline. But for Bishop, he had carried with him a hologram where he is able to communicate with a hologram version of his sister. Now, there was a miniseries that we should have covered. The problem is that Marvel Comics has not really re-released that series out yet for fans to read. So technically, I have no idea what happened in that miniseries when it came to Bishop and also him and his hologram with his sister. But it's Forge right now trying his best to fix it for Bishop so that he still has the ability to talk to his sister. But that is when you have our heroes realize the alarms are going off. But let's not forget that around this time in Marvel Comics, when it came to the character better known as Dark Beast, he wanted Havoc. Now, technically, we were not told why he wanted Havoc for just yet, but he does have a special reason behind it. Now, remember, Dark Beast is not from this reality at all. Dark Beast is from the Age of Apocalypse reality. But when that reality had ended, him and the Sugar Man, they had arrived in the main Marvel universe, but 20 years in the past. But either way, for Dark Beast, while working behind the scenes, he kind of realized this is the perfect time to get the person that he wants, which is Havoc. And he has somebody he can use to accomplish that goal. But as we transition back over to, Wildchild and Aurora, you do have Alpha Flight appear, where you do have her brother being able to take her down. Now, after doing that, you do have Northstar kind of express that he's very angry with Wildchild. He blames Wildchild for what the mind state Aurora is at the moment, and really feels like if he did not leave Alpha Flight, if he did not leave Aurora behind, then most likely she would be okay at this exact moment. Now, while you have those two characters talking, you do have X Factor appear. Now, by this point, like I said, Wildchild is part of X Factor. And so for X Factor, they are there to back up one of their own. But at the same time, they do know the different members of Alpha Flight. They don't want to fight against them. They want to actually help them. Now, this kind of leads into the whole problem of why Wildchild had left Alpha Flight and had joined X Factor. And here goes the whole idea why he left her, or really left Alpha Flight. When it came to Wildchild, there was a point in time where he looked normal again after his mutation kind of changed his form, where he looked hideous. And so when it came to Wildchild, once he was able to kind of turn back normal, he was then able to build a relationship with Aurora. The problem was that his mutation had changed him back into looking like unfortunately, a hideous character. And so because of that, he felt like she would no longer love him because the way he looked, not realizing that she loved him for the person he is. But either way, he still left Alpha Flight and left her behind. And so he tries his best to apologize, but for her, just saying sorry is not enough, because technically the dude left her behind at the worst time of her life. Now, for a brief moment, we kind of transition back over to the character who's going to be working for Dark Beast, and that would be Random. Now, for Random, he was this mercenary that was first given to us in the early days of the second X Factor team. And technically, with him being a mercenary, he wasn't really part of the team of X Factor. Now, occasionally, he would help them out, but over time, he did build bonds with some members of X Factor, like for example, Polaris. He became very close to her and also kind of close to Havoc as well because, well, Polaris is dating Havoc. But with him now working for Dark Beast, he's kind of concerned about the idea of what's going to happen between him and Polaris after he goes after Havoc. Now, the rest of the book for me is kind of sad because, okay, you do have Aurora technically about to kill off Wildchild. It does seem like he is about to die right here and there. Now, for Mystique, for me personally, she does make a bad move here where you do have Mystique use her ability to change into a form of Wildchild where he looked mostly normal, looks a tad bit handsome enough to kind of make Aurora believe that she has been tricked by talking to the wrong, Wildchild. And so she does go over to Mystique, who's still pretending to be Wildchild, to hopefully calm her down. Now, for the real Wildchild, he's kind of like, no, what you're doing right now is completely wrong, because once she finds out that you're not really me, it's going to make things a whole lot worse. And technically, he is right, but you didn't have Northstar once again knock out Aurora and grab her and take her back over to Alpha Flight, where the book does kind of end on the note where for Wildchild, he is most definitely now staying with X Factor, that he's no longer allowed to go back over to Alpha Flight. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.